Hey,
Hey guys, hey.
how's it going?
Good.
Oh, is that your real background? You got that.
This is not like, hold on, let me show you. I can't get my lighting in my room right. I'm redoing like my office.
That's good. Well, I'm at Jeff Harrison place, and he has a lot of great equipment. I could probably turn on and get much better lighting. So I'm trying to stay out of.
Yeah, that looks fantastic. Like my.
You get the spot.
The only thing is, like, these backgrounds make your hair look weird. It does. Like, so here's without.
Cece, I appreciate both your wisdom and your charm, but we don't need to talk about hair and weird background. I mean, if we could just, not that it bothers me, I'm very, by the way, I just had a political speech going. I was listening on Facebook. I think I turned it off. Also, I had a dating app and something popped in, so I pulled it up, but I just closed it. So in a moment, if there's something about Perdido Key and that how my kids are, or Republican parties and Democrats putting in judges. So if anything starts popping up in a minute, you can tell where I was during lunch. So there we go.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Okay, I can see all four of you. You are all listed as panelists. When we've got a couple of attendees, and I know that we've been averaging 28 to 31 people. So we'll go ahead and say 30, 29 folks. Also, I was told a couple instructors have got it on their projectors. Now, I don't know if that means students are watching it, but they're using it. I put a message out. Ole Miss had some folks. Meridian Community College has a great graphic program. It actually was part of the fine art department a moment ago. So Daniel may pop back in. Also, there's Tracy Williams at Gulf Coast Community College, and there are folks.
Hey,
Tracy. So they'll be back in a minute. Based on just emails and notes, both morning sessions were well attended. Via sent us a PDF of his morning presentation. Mad would also, these recording these, but I will send those out to instructors tonight. Just as a note, there is the student showcase. It's got, I think, about 30 or so pieces of work. We're going to leave it up for a week. We encourage other people. In a moment when we start, I'll announce that again. But anybody can log in and write positive comments. So that old cliche, a rising tide lifts all boats. There's not a competition. There's not awards being given. This is a tool for instructors and students to share. I don't know if y'all saw the list of schools, but there was a couple of high-performing high schools, Clinton and down at Gulfport High School. We only went 4 two-year schools, but only the 2-year schools that have graphic design programs. So they're all been, we talked to them. All state schools, public and private, and historically Black college universities. We reached out to everybody that we can. I talked to a lot of folks. There's a wonderful instructor who he was at Mississippi College. He's still on their website, but he's also one of the assistant professors at JSU, and they've always participated. So, but we reached out to people we haven't reached out before. So I'm glad we've got a wonderful crowd. If anybody's listening, hey folks. But I think I'm trying to set the groundwork for more, especially if we get back in person next year. And Cece, I believe you've been in Jackson at these events before. I have. Now, Cece, as young as you are, I can't remember because you are young, but somewhere, if Gulf Coast Community College listening, there's a cabinet that used to be the AdFed cabinet, and it's got binders back when we used to actually keep photo albums. And there was a couple of pages for each year's, including, I think there's, they were empty, but Jack Daniels bottles, which were invites and addies, and Eat, Drink, and Be Merry In, sunglasses back in the day, and James Bond, and swords, and banners. But there's a whole cabinet that has photos from all these events and people.
Oh, goodness.
On this event, when it was called Merge or Capital Gains, I was going over just faces that, and just from my standpoint experience, but back when we used to have hundreds of students there, and and everybody got fed, and the we gave away scholarships. But I was thinking about the folks right now. There are creative people. They're the chief or the head creative people at Community Coffee, Lamar Outdoor, the aquarium. I'm assuming, I don't know Jason's title, but also one time at Beau Rivage, but the space centers, and we go up through Jackson, but all the resorts. But I remember students being at this equivalent event in Jackson who've gone and do all these wonderful things, and somehow hopefully it shaped or informed or told them what not to do or what to do. But so thank y'all all so much for doing it. It's been a great day, and we're getting really good feedback or from the instructor. So thank you so much. Okay. And for those who are listening, attendees on the side, I'm talking about you. So there you go. So, hey, y'all students are watching. There you go.
Fantastic.
Okay. Now, folks on the side who are listening to us right now, I've got the panel turned on, so there's nothing hid. Also, I don't think I'm sharing my screen. So hopefully if something else pops up on my screen by mistake, my son wants to go ride his bike. A dating app sent me a notice, you know, it's the hair. And I was listening to YouTube videos, and 2 schools are texting me. So if something pops on my screen, I still try to cover it, and then I have to remember, oh yeah, it's video, digital, I have to turn it off. So something pops up. So right now, those are listening. Are y'all seeing the full panel? Let me know. I see the full panel. And GDT server too. I'm assuming that's Tracy. So Tracy, is your classroom, are y'all seeing the whole panel right now? Somebody love somebody sometime. Oh, by the way, my icon shows up as Jeff Harrison. So again, I need to thank Transmedia. They didn't lock me in here, but they're all on the other end. But we're piggybacking on Jeff Harrison's. I have passwords in his Wi-Fi and his Zoom account, but it shows my profile. So it may be why I got a dating profile a moment ago, is because Jeff Harrison's out there working for me. He just doesn't know it. So yeah, there you go. Oh, just see me. I don't see the panel. Okay. Thank y'all. So let me click on back around here real quick. So let me click on here and do more mute pin spotlight. Okay. Okay. Panelist. Okay. I think I can make everybody a host. I think. Put on hold. Oh, right now, folks. Do we hit share screen? Y'all can see share screen on y'all's, right? So I made y'all a panelist. Let me change. What about now? Gallery view. Hi, Don. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I don't know if he gave you a big shout out earlier, CC. When I was talking about all these wonderful people.
Don Moore.
He immediately threw it up. She was with us. That's not the exact words, but he jumped on quick.
I love Don Moore. He's one of my favorite people.
I see now. All right. Does anybody else see it? Okay. Somebody who's listening to us right now, do you see all 4 panelists? Yes or no? Yes. Much better. Okay. Now, the good news is I'm actually just a moderator. I'm pushing buttons that yesterday morning during practice, I learned how to push. Thank you, Jeff Harrison. He can't hear me, but he knows if I start yelling, he's going to come running. So I'm going to go through, I'll stay on here and look down the side. But there's the panels there. Well, folks, I have 101 by all kinds of geographic and universal clocks controlled by satellites, and the radioactivity changing of some isotope somewhere in somebody's closet. So there we go. Okay. All right. And I show 12 attendees on the side. Fantastic. I'm just going to double check. I got a message a moment ago that Meridian's coming back. I see Gulf Coast Community College on there. Zachary and some other folks. There we go. Okay. So welcome back, everybody. I'm going to say hello for just a moment and take about a minute, and I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. A couple of things. Again, I'm down at Transmedia. They are allowing us to use their facility. That means their good Wi-Fi, their Zoom account, so discount there. But I'm logged in as Jeff Harrison. Now, it's convenient. I also share the same name as Jeff, but he's the hero, and I'm just the guy who gets to look at myself on screen and talk. So if you see a photo of a handsome guy with a camera, it's not me, but there you go. Now, but I may steal his profile though. There is, again, the showcase. I encourage everybody to log on the showcase. Thank you. Eric at Future Design Group. Everybody's busy, but he wouldn't change. I did not realize there was a limit to 5 comments. It's up to 50 now. So professionals, educators, and all students hit the showcase and just scroll through, leave messages. If you say, I wouldn't use that font, great. Sit there and say, what font would you use? If you have a website or suggestions, there are all skill levels. So if you're just beginning, use the site, ask questions of other people. If you want to share your personal contact information, I don't care, but do that at your own risk, but please share if you have a social media account. If you are sharing something and you're a grad student or you at the top of your game, this is your chance to be that art director, work with clients, go through and add comments to the other ones. If you're an instructor, you're more than welcome to use this in your classroom. And if there's a way that we can better serve or make this a better activity for you in the future, let me know. Again, this is a Mississippi base and Mississippi ad fed. Today, we're real heavy on the coast. But it is based on feedback by instructors and students, and most of us all went to school here in the state. And for students who are here, this is what you got to look forward to. So, so think about your future. But if there's anything we can do, so that's it. So with that in mind, this is your chance. There's a chat and there's also a Q&A. If you go to the top of your screen, folks, where it says view, you can use, there is an actual Q&A session, but if you just see the chat, if you'll post it in chat, our panelists can see it also. I believe y'all can see the chat on the side. So there is an official Q&A section. It's not up, but if somebody enters into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, I will go ahead and pull that up. There's a place where we can open it, answer it, and then dismiss it. It's like a business meeting, not today. So that's it. So nobody's getting grades today. So that's it. So if I see no questions at the moment, I'm going to turn this over. And here's a couple of comments. If we don't have a lot of questions that pop up, spur those. I'll throw a couple out that we've always applied in the past. And we can also go to the showcase and maybe scroll through some of those. If we decide to do that, I will share that on my screen. I believe the panelists and everybody can see what I'm scrolling at there also. Okay. Also, there were pieces that were available that did go live during lunch. So those had sent them up this morning. They went through live during lunch. And that's it. Okay. So with nothing else, I see no comments. Panelists, if the three of y'all would just, whatever order you're in, I tell you what, I'm going to go in my order and I'm just going to call these, allow you a chance to introduce yourself. Okay. So CC, you're at my top left. So I'm stopping top, column, vertical. It's CC, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you all so much for coming out. We're excited about it. I think I've been, like Jeff said, I attended this conference several years ago, and every year I love the opportunity that AdFed gives to give back to the students. We've been there. We know what you're going through. Anyways, my name is CC Shabazz. I am I spent like a little bit over 18 years in the advertising world. Worked primarily for advertising agencies, one of them being Matt Genius. I see Don Moore in the house, was there as one of their director of creative strategies. I worked for another advertising agency for over 10 years as their executive creative director here on the coast. And right before that, ad director, but at one point I started right where you guys are. I'm a graduate of the University of Southern Mississippi in graphic communications and advertising, yes. And I also went to Perkinston. So I had an opportunity, yes, Perkinston and MGCCC, that is where I kind of got my design legs. So I've been there at both places. I understand what you guys are going through and where you're at. One of the things that I specialize in is branding. You know, advertising and marketing are completely different. And one of the things that I like doing is branding and overall brand strategy. So like right now, I had the opportunity to sort of morph my career during the pandemic. I I still have an opportunity to stay in contact with some of my favorite advertising agencies, but it's just in a different capacity now. Now client side, which is extremely different, helping build an in-house creative agency for Memorial Health Systems here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast as their marketing and brand strategist. Thank you so much. And I'm so looking forward to having a good time with you guys.
Thanks, Steve. By the way, we got a question down at Q&A we'll get to in just a moment. By the way, if you mentioned your school, I'm going to go woohoo, one, because I love that y'all are here. But the truth is, I've attended something at every community college campus, and on my transcript have classes from about every school in the state, at least a couple hours, including a grad program from the W that they dumped either way. So I love you all. So if you mention your school, I'm going to give you a whoop whoop in the dirt of my heart. So I'm going to drop down on my column left over. So Jessica, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I am Jessica Broom. I work at Keesler Federal Credit Union. Hopefully some of you have heard of it. It's a large credit union here in Mississippi. I am on the client side. I've worked with multiple agencies from local in Mississippi to out of state. We also have an in-house design team. I am self-taught. I do have an advertising degree from Mississippi State. It's actually a marketing degree. I've worked in the credit union industry for 10 years and went from, just a basic marketing coordinator to self-taught graphic design. So it's more hands-on for me, everything's self-taught, and it's been a fun road, and I'm glad to bring the client side perspective today.
Okay. Paige Ann, your turn, please.
Well, I am Paige Ann Fletcher, and I'm currently the VP of Education for AAF Mississippi Gulf Coast as well. So Jeff and I have worked the past couple of weeks to put all this together, and we're so excited that you guys are here. I've attended every session today and was blown away by the presenters and just the feedback that you guys have been providing. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for attending. But I work for Christie Fountain Advertising in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And I am an advertising manager. I graduated from Southern Miss SMTTT, and I got a degree in public relations and ended up in the advertising world down here. Never expected to get into that, but I absolutely love it. I've been with Christie Fountain Advertising for, I think, 7 years now, straight out of college. I love it here. We are a full service creative agency. We're all about, just working on strong creative execution. We absolutely love it. And in my role, I started out as an advertising coordinator, so more of the client relations side, and then have kind of grown over the past few years from that to a project manager and now an advertising manager. So I do a little bit of copywriting and editing. I've dealt with a little bit of graphics, and then I also deal more primarily now with marketing strategy and media placement overall. So I love the strategy side of advertising. And then I also work directly with our clients. So I absolutely love it. And I was a Gulf Coast graduate as well, but I was at JD by the Sea is what we used to call it back in the day. I know it's named something different now, but
Harrison County campus.
Regardless, I love it. And I'm a Gulf Coast fan, so absolutely love it. So I'm super excited and can't wait to get to the questions.
And you're at your office, correct?
Yes, I am.
They have a wonderful place right in Ocean Springs. So for the folks who are not where we are right now, I was not kidding. If I walk outside, I can be in the sand in about 30 seconds.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. So thank you, everybody. A couple of notes. You'll keep saying client side. I will say some stuff, and most of your students can just roll your eyes going, yeah, we know that. But two of these people work in-house, and then one person's with an agency. So client side, in-house, the other one means the service. Also down here on the coast, a lot of times we have what's called an agency of record, which may be somewhere else. Then we have casinos within house. We have a local agency. So if you pose a question in the past history, we'll go, oh, we're the local agency, we're the agency of record, we're the in-house. It gets kind of messy sometimes, but at some point we all end up eating tacos together at some point. Okay, so for the group, there are some Q&A. So here's the first one. It says, and it's anonymous, so I like a lot of anonymous. It's like my dating site. How did you learn Photoshop in order to make a good design? How did you learn Photoshop? Anybody?
I'll start. I self-taught. I mean, I found that getting in there and trial and error, going in and trying different things, seeing what the tools do. I mean, you can read book. I mean, I've taken classes as well. Don't get me wrong. I've studied it, but you have to be hands-on. That's the best thing to do.
And it's important. Photoshop, it was one of the classes we had to take in for graphic design. Here's what I got to tell you guys. A lot of times Photoshop is really cool because it can do all these amazing tricks, but make sure that you learn your fundamental graphic design skills. Make sure that you understand why you're doing certain things. Like a lot of times people want to put drop shadows and all those bevels and all those cool things, but that does not mean that it's intuitive and in functional design. So make sure before you get to Photoshop that you know the basics of graphic design, like all your fundamental design elements. And then make sure that you're kind of like figuring out what you want to use Photoshop for, because it is a beast. Like, I mean, like literally you can use Photoshop for anything, but is it for design? Are you creating backgrounds? Are you doing photo editing? What are you using the program for? And then start to kind of hone in your skills into exactly what you want to use the program for. And then go to the YouTube of YouTube University. It is like the best. You can find anything on that place once you figure out what your overall goal is in the program.
And I am not as graphic design heavy because we have people 100% here that are dedicated to creative. So I'm more marketing strategy, but I have had a little bit of Photoshop experience. I took a class in college, and then I'm able to do some minor things, and a lot of it has been self-taught. So I'm going to let them answer majority of the design questions for the day.
Okay, I'm going to add something to this. Today, there's plenty, especially with COVID, it happened the last year. There's plenty of resources online to learn anything. Adobe, if you have a license, has wonderful videos. And in the old days, or at one time, a lot of times they were either just boring or did not work well. But there's enough peer review and people using it enough that the interface now, it's user friendly, just like anything else. So you can find anything online. I was also going to put, for me, the #1 go training site was Lynda, but they're now with LinkedIn. So if you're going to spend money, I would ask around your instructors, your peers, or reach out to the group. But Lynda, now through LinkedIn, has always been my recommendation. Plus, there's also help. Okay. Now, another thing about if you're learning Photoshop is at one time, it was not just making it look pretty. A lot of students would bring up stuff that looked good, but it had to be built to technical specifications, how it works, resolution, fonts in Photoshop. There's a whole list of stuff you are learning in school. Photoshop was a mess and it required an expert. Well, today is if you can get to look good on a screen, there's a good chance that if you can blow it up 1.5 times on your screen, people can actually use it. So the days of folks like me looking at it going, let me see your file, it's not built like this and layers and so forth, and the font, or there's no way the color, or photographers who are still so color critical, they're really nerdy about that stuff, about the way they build their files. So today you can do about anything. So the last piece I'll add to that is you can learn all the bells and whistles. Photoshop is your kitchen drawer. There's so much in there that you may never use, like that old roll of film you'll never process or something you just won't throw away. So the question is, today on Photoshop, you can click, I want to do this with it. I would just find out an example of what you want to do with Photoshop and then reverse engineer and try to emulate that. If you want to be and I'm Photoshop, I forgot what it is, from Photoshop 4. So I'm Photoshop certified from way back during the ARC. But the truth is, if you're going to do animation, you're going to do photography, color correcting, there's so many other applications now which are better at film editing. You can do audio in Photoshop now, but there's a number of other workhorses. But Photoshop still is the catchphrase. So I would think about what you want to learn in Photoshop and then maybe focus on those sections. And then there's still tools in the kitchen drawer in Photoshop that they can actually, there's still a dodge and burn tool. If you never use chemicals in a darkroom, you don't know what a dodge and burn tool. They're still in Photoshop. It'll say, it says use the, I forgot, they just went brain dead, but use the old school. Do you want to click it on or off? So they won't get rid of stuff, which, it's been suggested. But in Photoshop, that's a huge question that you ask. I would pare it down, find out what you want to focus on, look at those tools. And also the last piece I have, there's endless tutorials online. A lot of them are particular people's view of how to do it. You go somewhere else, they're going to tell you, you know, so white pants or white shoes before Labor Day, you know, it's left up to you, whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's it. So I don't know if that answered your question. I threw a lot in there. So y'all can fuss about that in a moment. Okay, all right. All right, next question under Q&A. The next question relates to resume. If you have an unprofessional account for social media, would you delete it? Or is there another way? So I guess I'll read this quickly. If your social media, and this, Ryan did a great job talking about that earlier, and that's your social media, in my opinion, is your number one reference. So that's your, on your resume, that is your reference. So Google, Google, Google. So to the panel is asking, what information can you give related to an unprofessional social media account? Do they delete it? Do they clean it up? Do they start fresh? What are your recommendations?
I have to tell you, especially now, because I've helped other people with resume buildings, and even for at Memorial, people go to your profiles. Like literally, it's gone in the days where all that stuff is it's private. So when you're thinking about your personal brand, and personal branding for career is an actual thing, you have to start shaping now where you want to do and what you want to be. And so like number one, I would, if nothing else, if here's a couple of things that I've told students to do. If you have like a really quirky personality, maybe you want to have one social media account that does not have your name, maybe have your alias that you use for your friends and your family, and that for all your shenanigans. But if your professional social media accounts uses your name, like mine is Cecilia Shabazz, people can find me. And if I'm going to put that out there, like right now, my Facebook account is for, I make sure that I put the best things on there because clients are in there, it's people from the advertising community is on there. So like right now, that social media account is not my own because it has the name that I am using for my career. And so it's searchable. And so I would either clean it up if I possibly can. If you can't, I would change the alias to something that they can't trace back to you and create another account. Mainly to just like maybe even push out your LinkedIn account, your Behance account, something along the lines that's industry focused.
I was taught when I was in college to never put anything out there that you can't take back. I was taught that in a class, and we had a professor type in random names on the internet and find them and start pulling information related to your name. And there were some interesting things that came up, interesting past stuff like that. But when you're thinking, just like Cece said, like you have a personal brand, unfortunately, when you have your name in this day and age out there, that is, you are a representative of whatever company you work for. So anything that I share on Facebook or anything that I put out there, any images of myself, I approve images of myself before anybody tags me in anything. I think about the things I'm going to share as well, because it's a reflection on your company and a reflection as you're entering the world as well. So when you're entering the workforce, people are going to stalk you, just like Ryan had talked about earlier. Like that's a thing when people are coming to apply for jobs. They're going to look at you, and it's okay to share, you know, if you have like a good eye for photography, sharing shots like that, sharing inspirational quotes or things that you're into, it can still be your own, but do it in a way that is tasteful, and do it in a way as if thinking like, if you went to go have a conversation with your grandmother, would your grandmother be okay seeing that? Or think about where you want to work and where you want to be, and then you can actually tailor your personal brand and what you put out there to help balance your portfolio out and kind of connect it and route it all together. But I would say, like Cece said, like either create an alias, get rid of some of the images. If you have any images of you're out and you're drinking, anything like that in college, it's okay to have pictures with wine and stuff, but just make sure you clean it up. Just make it as professional as you can possibly be.
And I would recommend don't delete it, don't hide your profile, leave it out there. We want to see it. I'm telling you from a credit union perspective, we want to see who applied, who they are, and you want to make sure that it matches the resume that you put out there. So just, make sure they match, make sure it's you. I mean, don't make a completely fake profile and keep it out there so employers can look for you and find you.
And it depending, one other thing that I was trying to make sure if this is sure, because this is such a thing, and because employers going to your social media platforms is like a norm now. Some of the social media platforms, and depends on what it is, like if you have albums that you don't want to get rid of, you can hide them, within your platform, so they're only visible to certain people. So make sure that you go and look at your permissions, like what what's public and what's not public, something you can make completely private and you can lock them. So look at your overall security settings for each one of your platforms, and make sure, because a lot of times people don't realize how much information they have open, like your phone numbers and your literally a ton of personal information through the years you may have put on your social media platforms, and you don't even know that that information is public. So make sure that you look at your security settings as well and see what it is. If you want to keep it, see if you can lock it so that it's for your eyes only.
I'll add to that. Again, there's a public and private button in there. Use those. As an educator, this was a big discussion. At some point in your life, in my life, social media would have been used to raise my status with my peers. So sometimes more outlandish, or people I see, or things I did, or comments or memes. That was the goal of social media. It was to socialize and spend time. At some point that revolves over, and your peer group becomes a professional group, and you're trying to make impression on jobs. And what you used to do with your peers, or try to impress your peers, may not always work. So you're making that transition. A couple suggestions on social media. There's a phrase that we all sucker on gases. Whatever you click on is what you see, and just the algorithms go through and add that. So if you have not done so, a quick way so that you get more content that looks like you're in the business is one, clicking like Adobe. That's an easy one there, and you'll get a lot of there. But also different agencies, follow them. And if you'll spend a few moments clicking on some agencies, also on some tutorials, and there's some great ones out there, follow some people, you will start getting other suggestions automatically. And you're like some of those, watch some of those. It says based on your last, whatever you did online, you did dirty this. Now it's going to give you more of that. So you'll get more of that same gas in. So you'll start getting more stuff into your social media accounts that reflects the professional one. So if you have not done that, that's kind of a shortcut way to go ahead and start getting more professional stuff, like some of those things. So if I do a quick search and say, oh, what are the likes with their profile, it shows that beyond, and I'm making this up, so this does not apply, but beer pong championship Olympics, just assuming, or, you'll start seeing, I like Adobe, I follow these agencies. It shows that your interests are what your professional wanted to do. And what happened is the algorithms will start sending more your way. Now you may get tired of it, but that's a quick way. So that's it. So I hope that helped. Okay. All right. So we don't have an immediate question right now, but there's a couple of things that were raised earlier. Let's talk about resumes for a moment. And this is a common one, especially for somebody who does not have a big resume. They don't have a lot of stuff to put on there. Is a one-page simple resume okay? Do we need multiple pages? Should we emphasize, if you go, well, I've got some retail work, should we emphasize that? But if I'm going to be a graphic designer, can I just put retail work and emphasize my graphic skills? So what are your suggestions on how big of a resume, and will simple still work? Sorry, anybody want to jump on that one?
So I am a big component of, especially now, the trend with resume building, just because you do have access to online portfolios, to keep your resume pretty concise. Make sure that it has the information that you like, that is the most pertinent. People, especially because of the pandemic and things, people understand a little bit of switching in jobs, but it's really important for people. A lot of times right now, people just want to get to the nitty gritty of who you are, especially with graphic design. line. They want to see what your portfolio looks like, the quirkiness of your personality, what your overall skill sets are. And you want to make sure it's just like anything else, you are a visual communicator. And so if you have a resume that's 3 pages long, that means that you're indecisive. So so your portfolio should be able to show that you know how to visually communicate and lead somebody through a page. So take it as an overall challenge to be able to do that. And as far as online portfolios go, I always say, like, even if I would prefer for, I'm still a component of quality over quantity. If it does not, if it's not your overall best work, if it's not pushed to where you need to see, even if it's, if all you have is 3 pieces, but those 3 pieces are dope, put those in there. And don't think that you have to and be able to have the overall backstory and your processes for those 3 pieces, rather than cramming your resume with a ton of things that, again, makes it look like you don't know what direction that you want to go in and what your strengths are.
I would say the shorter and cleaner, the better. And don't get all artsy with your resume. Save that for your portfolio, but keep that resume clean. Don't go crazy on it.
I'm all about clean as well in 1 page. I've had somebody tell me, even if you have 20 or 30 years of experience, you're not even entitled to a 3-page resume, 10 years of experience on each one. So, and it's good in graphic design, and it's good in general, just to be concise and to the point, because that shows that you're a good communicator at that as well. If you can convey, and you can kind of, even if you just have retail experience, you guys are students, you're just starting out, but that does show that you're working, that you can work with that you can work with customers and customer service and communicate. And in this industry, if you're going to be a freelance graphic artist, or if you're going to end up coming to an agency and working on the agency side, you're going to have skills like that. So there's ways to tailor your resume and to angle it to what you want to achieve. So it's good to be concise too, but I also encourage you too, if you have just a little snippet of, customer service skills, think about the job that you're going to and craft it 3 or 4 different times and have a professional look at it, so that they can recommend and give you feedback on how to strategically build your resume. That is one of my favorite things to do. And we probably have some Gulf Coast students that are in here, and I've kind of been working with a few of them on their resumes as well. And I just think it's very important too, to understand that everybody's going to have a different opinion on your resume too. So you may send it to 3 professionals and get 3 different sets of changes on it. It's selling you, and if you feel good about it, then you should be confident in yourself. So I think that concise definitely is the way to go.
And be thorough with proofreading. That isn't, have it checked over 10 different times to make sure your spelling and everything is correct.
Yes, that is the quickest way to just you just can't have typos.
I think, to be honest with you, I've had people just because we are professionals in the industry, a lot of times people ask for recommendations, but I cannot tell you how many times I've heard employers ask the questions, well, can they read and write? Because a lot of times graphic communicators, they think that we don't look at the words. So literally they say, can they spell? Can they proofread? Literally it is a skill set that a lot of times people think that creative folks do not have, and it does. It turns employers off, especially when they're looking for a hire that's intuitive.
Has anybody used Grammarly? I know that gets advertised a lot. There's software out there. It dumbs me down, but I need it. So I know that mine has heads.
Grammarly changed my life. I am not ashamed that I am a paid Grammarly person. I have it the highest tier of Grammarly, because at sometimes at the foundation of my career, because I started, when you're looking at rivers and whittles and everything, early on in my career, words started turning into shapes. So I was looking at, when I'm building headlines, I'm looking at the shapes of the letters, I'm looking at where things hit. And so for a long time, even for myself, I had to make sure that I trained my eye to look past the words. So a lot of times, even before I get to graphic design, I'm focusing on the data of the design, the words of the design, and making sure that's where it needs to be before I get into actual structure, because it's just a click into something that ends up happening. We can have, I remember one project, this was young designing CC, big bold headline, like literally it was the biggest headline probably in life, had the same word in there twice, but it was a really fantastic font. The font was amazing, but it turned into a shape to me. And during those days, it went to print. Bad stuff. So yes. Yeah, I'm a big component of making sure over my career consistently, I have taken writing classes. I've literally workshopped on copywriting, workshops on editing, learning what AP style is, just because words are so important. And then you can have an amazing design, but when you have an analytical person or a boss of our customer, it does not matter how amazing it looks. We are not called to make things look pretty. We're supposed to be strategic, and we're supposed to communicate. So in that is down to the comma placement. So yes, Grammarly.
I know somebody you worked with before. Every single letter is Kern. So yeah.
Every single letter. He used to make me turn the words upside down in Kern.
But still, folks on resumes, if I were to ask you how many of y'all designed your business card and you love it, a lot of people go, but a lot of times we default to standard templates and margins when we do our resumes. It doesn't have to be multiple pages. It doesn't have to be over artsy, but you're a graphic designer. When you hand me that piece of paper, it should say, oh, this is a designer. So it can overdo. So if you're, a lot of times because of education, when you say resume, there's a standard 3/4 inch border all the way around it. You want a big block that bleeds off, and we work in these standard templates. Forget all that. If you're a designer, you're doing a business card, you recognize spacing in there, but you're going to just add more info. If you approach it a similar way, but your resume is a promo brochure that you're leaving behind. That is the freebie in your portfolio. So when you go someplace, people look through your book, either online or whatever, but if they download, you send them your resume, that's another client piece. And a lot of times they don't reflect that. So on the resumes, think about it like doing their bigger business card and they're a promo piece. So, but bring those margins in, don't worry about bleeds. A lot of times we throw on graphic elements to make them look pretty, nice and clean, just like your business card, folks. Okay. All right. Well, if not any other questions on that one, we have, I've got two questions. How often do employers, I think y'all answered this, look at social media platforms outside LinkedIn, Instagram? For me, it's a Google. Whatever pops up is what everybody's going to see. So, okay.
They always say Google yourself. When you're applying for jobs, before you apply, Google yourself and see what you can find.
I know it's when we're looking for new candidates, I really want to see what that person is like outside of LinkedIn and professionally. So just like we had talked about, it's when I'm looking, I'm definitely going to be looking at your Instagram. I'm going to try to find you anywhere that I possibly can, just to see who you are as a person and how you're going to fit in here as well, because how you act outside of work still comes into work as well. So.
Okay. I was going to add, if you have an Instagram account, which is common, and then you have other social media, and you go, oh, my Instagram is A, and then there's a seesaw, and there's these other ones. If they don't match up, that's a big red flag, because they're looking at who you are on a daily basis. So there needs to be some consistency across there. The other thing is, I'm old school. If I go back 10, 12 years ago, I really didn't have a strong social media presence. And then one day somebody said, and I think it was Mad Genius at a workshop, said, if you don't have a social media presence, you can't work for us, because if you're not out there doing it. So I immediately put one up. So for me, a while, I had the same photo, the same info on every platform, everyone that I could. But for many college students, y'all don't have LinkedIn, and that's like, you got to do it for class or for a English class or something. But if you set that up and it's got your great, Sunday Go best clothes or your graduation photo, and your LinkedIn profile looks really, really great, it doesn't have a lot of weight to it. So use it like you would your other accounts. You have to force yourself, but share information, go to those agencies, but treat it like your other accounts. But you can't have one account that's woohoo and the other account that's like, you need to make sure they're all the same. Okay. All right. There was another question. If somebody doesn't have something else to add into that one. How often look at social media? Okay. What's best to go about concepts? It says always making concepts every single day, every month, or is there a different way to go about it? So the question is, how do you conceptualize? And question is, I guess I'm gonna Zachary add into this. Are you saying, how do I conceptualize just as a creative person all the time? Do I see, mashed potatoes and I see figures in the clouds, or is it working with a particular client? So when's the best time to work on concepts? Every single day, every week, or every month? And Zachary, if you want to add to your question so I can be sure that we get it correct, let me know. So can y'all see the same Q&A panelists on y'all's end, or am I just reading them to you? At the very bottom of your screen, there's a little thing that says Q&A that you can probably click on, so it pops it up. So if y'all can see it. So that's the one from Zachary, if somebody wants to tackle that one.
Now I do believe in this, and because I've been around a ton of different creative personalities. I do believe that everybody has their own time that they're the most creative. And so, and this is just like, seriously, I've had people on my team that if you catch them first thing in the morning, you will get nothing out of them. But like maybe about like 2 o'clock, their creative juices come on and they turn into these beasts. And they can do anything. Like I know myself that I am more creative during the day. I'm like a lot more analytical. I just like doing some like client type work. But if I needed to push out concepts, I just know the optimal time for myself is a certain time in the day. And so like a lot of like you're gonna have to figure out what those times are so you can kind of schedule your heavy lifting creatively in that space, so you're not forcing, because you can work against your creative instances. I think that's important. And I also, for myself, I think it's very important to sharpen your eye. When I say that, is just like spend time just looking. Like there's nothing new under the sun. I think it's very important for you to take out times where you're constantly having this pool of inspiration that you're pulling from. It's just like, how often are you checking out what's hot with, and it doesn't even have to be, if you're not into video editing, it doesn't matter. But like, there's still somebody doing something creative in those areas that give you opportunities to just sharpen your eyes, that you're constantly looking at gorgeous things out there, so that you have this bank to pull from when you're feeling empty. It just depends on what kind of industry that you end up going to. Sometimes you might end up getting into a situation where you're creative with the 8 to 5. And that's like a lot of times when you're in that sort of setting, that can be challenging. So it's going to be important for you at the very beginning to figure out, like, again, how to optimize your time during the day. What kind of mundane work that you can get in when you're not feeling your very best. And then, like, again, save your heavy lifting for when you are.
Here, I'll add on to that too. It really kind of depends on how you concept, like how you come up with concepts. Like me, I have to talk about it. I have to get with a group, even if they're not even related to graphic design. I still have to talk it out. And I mean, that could be 5 o'clock at night, or that could be at lunchtime. It just kind of depends. But again, it just depends on your style.
I find that I do most of my creative thinking right before I'm about to fall asleep. And then I have a little journal, and I will just kind of like write things in it, or things I'm thinking about, so that I'm able to retain it and kind of remember it the next day. I'm definitely one of those that my brain does not stop when I lay down, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes. But I definitely too really enjoy what Jessica said. I have to be in a good area. I have to be in a good headspace to get there. So I like to sit down. We have a beautiful conference room up here. It's very homey. We all like to sit down and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And I enjoy that aspect as well. And then sometimes it's finding a space alone or being outside where it's kind of quiet and then I'm able to be in nature and able to see things that I'm able to really draw those creative juices and concepting in. So I think it's finding that space and finding that time, but also being able to apply it to your whatever career field you're going to be in. Like Cece said, from 8 to 5, you still have to, if you're working, you do have to be able to concept within those hours too. So find things that inspire you. And if you have to have like a board up to kind of influence you around your office, do things, whatever space you're in, try to set it up in a way that you're going to be able to creatively motivate yourself.
And can I add one? I want to add one more thing to this. Is like a lot of times too, and I think it feels like you're talking about burnout. Like, and just making sure that you're not getting burned out and creative. And a lot of times when creatives get stuck in concepting, make sure too, when you're going into a particular project of some sorts, because a lot of times as creatives, we don't like asking the tough questions from our clients, especially when they tell you they don't give you proper parameters. They tell you to just make something beautiful, make it pop. You guys know all the words, just I'll know it when I see it. Like, to be honest with you, some of those things over the years, if you look at creatives, where creatives get burnt out, is because they don't take the time at the very beginning of a project to define what the box is. You cannot think out of a box that does not have walls. So like, you have to learn how to set parameters. If you don't have all the information, your brain is almost like having a clean palette. Sometimes it's not some of the best things to do. The more parameters you have for a project, the better it is going to be for you to get to where you need to be. So if you are concepting and you don't completely understand what you're supposed to be doing, you don't have all the information that you need, you're going to get burned out, because you are literally you're spinning your wheels, and at some point you have to protect your creative process and get to the very beginning of at the initial stage and say like, hey, I need this additional information, I need that additional information. Some of the best creative best creative concepts come from data. It's data driven. It's data driven meets creativity, and that is where magic happens, and you can avoid burnout like that.
Thank you. Zachary, I see where you did a follow-up. I think it was explained, but it depends on the person. Sometimes it's early morning, midday. A lot of people have that afternoon crash. Sometimes people like me, I'm like chocolate and puppies first thing in the morning, right out of the bed, make everybody else mad. But as the afternoon, it gets about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I have a big dip. Sometimes I'll take a nap and I'll wake up at 2 a.m. So I think it's depending on the project and the person. So I don't know if we have a specific answer when the best time to be creative is. I'll add to what they were saying. For me, I have paper and I journal a lot. And somebody gives me a project, I will doodle. So I will line it out. But then I will start doing search. I have folders, and I'll just do the standard Google, find everything I can, and then photos, examples. And for me though, the project will languish until I set up a digital file. So if it gives me that format, so whether it's the online social media ad or a billboard or a t-shirt or a big banner for an event, for a festival, once I set that file up, I feel like I've actually started, and I'll at least throw the words in, and sometimes I'll print them out and just stare at it. But sometimes just getting that project moving forward, it's in small steps and not just really big ones. So sometimes the technical part and the conceptual, I work on those different times, but I still try to keep it moving. So if somebody calls you up going, how's that project? And say, well, I've got the file right here. So at least I've got something to show, at least like I'm working. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on down to the next one. I'm talking about time management. Oh, that's a good one for you. It's happened to be gender specific ladies this time, but time, because y'all three are busy. I'm busy too, but different ways. So, so time management and hard deadline that work especially well for you. Anybody want to talk about deadlines and time management? Paige?
Yeah, I'm going. time management, I get a little bit excited about it because I work on the client side, so I know when everything is due, and so this is my jam, just to be upfront. So nothing is more exciting to me than getting something in last minute and then being able to turn around and get something that's well thought out, well executed, and well done. And the ways to kind of go about it is to not to look at that deadline and be like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Don't get overwhelmed. Don't limit yourself. You're capable of getting things done quicker and more efficiently than you ever will know. And the more experience you get, the better and more confident you'll be able to build that up. But some of my favorite techniques are, number one, just kind of starting with, depending on the job, with concepting. If you need to pick up the phone and call somebody and have a conversation to make sure that you're able to get that done, pick up the phone and call them. Don't go back and forth with email and trying to you can waste a lot of time going back and forth. Sometimes it's easier just to pick up the phone and call. Secondly, I would say just having your goal in mind and knowing where you want to take things is very, very important. So having that idea, knowing where it's going to go, and then being able to execute it very quickly and efficiently is super important. But I would say just don't put pressure on yourself when you have those deadlines. Just know that you're capable of doing it. And I think if you remove that pressure from yourself, that is a big deal for me, is removing that pressure and knowing that you're able to get something done. So I know that's not a ton of time management tips, but I feel like that pressure is self-imposed. Take it off, and then things will definitely be a lot easier.
I agree. And I think one of the things that I learned too is just like when you have deadlines, you need to back into that project. A lot of times we have big goals and not the proper amount of time. And so you might want to go a certain design direction. So, and it might not you just might not have the right amount of time to get that done. So you need to look at your deadline, like again, set parameters, look at what your challenge is. And I had to do that. Figure out again, in a project, when you have to know your strengths and weaknesses, where you end up crashing and burning. But like a lot of times with designers, we want to over design when a particular project doesn't even call for that. So you have to make sure that you're understanding what your time limit, what you can get done within a certain time limit. I think that that's extremely very important. If you're a procrastinator, which some of us are, I've had to deal with that myself. It's just like, I have to say, Cece, you are a procrastinator when it sometimes gets to hard things. I had to learn that about myself, and then again, figure out tools and tricks and traits that I can do to help myself with better time management. I do believe in having time management project platforms where you can look at a project and literally think about every single step that you have to get in order for you to complete that project. I cannot live without a project management system. I think I have my team using Monday.com. We use Monday.com and Slack. I will not I will not live without that, because I know me. I know me, and at the very beginning, I have to kind of set up all the different steps that I have to do. And then at some point, it's okay to having somebody, if you have a stronger personality, like Paige Ann would be that personality for me on my team. That if I know that there might be, I might have some pitfalls, I'll go ahead and I communicate with my teammates. They just help me push them along. And the other big thing is to get the hard stuff done first, so get all the hard work, front load your projects, people, get all the hard stuff done first. So when you're tailoring down to the very end of your project, because you never know, you might think that you can wait to the end to get something done, but there is always something that happens. Your printer is going to break, the whole print company that you're working for is going to break.
We love our print companies. We love our print companies.
but like something always goes wrong. So you don't want to push it to the last minute. You just never know. There could be things going on with your family, some crazy meeting, some new deadlines thrown in the mix. So you want to front load your project, get all the tough stuff done first, so that you can kind of taper off at the very end of your project in order to kind of hit your deadline and not feel panicked.
And I'll say in my career, we normally have like 7 projects going at once. So, you're balancing the different projects at different times, but I use WorkZone, which is similar to what Cece was talking about, where you lay out every single task. And I mean, even something as simple as send first proof, get edits back, make next proof, and it helps so much, because if you're looking at a project as a whole and it's huge, it feels overwhelming and you're kind of stuck, like you freeze, like, how am I going to get this done? So if you break it down and give yourself those timelines, it helps. And I also find, no matter, when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'll remember everything. No, write everything down. I don't care if it's something like make flyer, it's something easy. Oh, I'll remember to do that. No, you won't. You're going to get caught up in something else. So write everything down. Don't be afraid to break out your day too. Like, these are one thing I found recently that we do is we set goals for the week. Like, this week, I'm going to commit to getting this, this, and this done. And you say it out loud, you say it to other people, and you hold yourself accountable and you get it done. But yeah, those breaking it down by task is amazing. And if you get stuck, like to me, if I get stuck in a big project, I'll take a few minutes and conquer a little one, because getting something small done, it like reignites that fire to knock out the bigger project. So, that's just a personal thing, but I find that helpful.
And Jessica if you look on her board behind her, she's got what a lot of us use. If you see that HOT with an exclamation point, that means that it was due yesterday or 5 minutes ago. So that's a term in advertising you will use. She's got her board out there, and that's what you'll see in a lot of our offices, is things like that to kind of keep us on task of juggling multiple projects and everything. I saw that hot and I had to point that out. That's great.
I luckily just erased the hot project. I got it done yesterday.
Hey girl.
Yay.
As a teacher, back when I was in the classroom, these type of events, you see students up there making notes. One thing I do love about Zoom is everybody shakes their head. So I think there should be an app, there'd be a rattle. So everybody's rattling, rattle, like little Christmas rattles. So glad to see. There's a job, well, I don't hear it as much. There's apps, but there's a position called traffic. So a lot of y'all are familiar with that. And traffic used to be the gatekeeper, keeping projects moving and setting stuff up and arranging. But if you're working for yourself, I recommend breaking down big projects. Now, when I started, we used to have this board, had like little time cards, and we'd make notes. They went from here to who's designing, and then we'd move to print and to proof and then delivery and billing. And I always used to like get all the cards out of my slot, either pre-press or whatever there. Well, today I still make little Post-it notes, and it says idea or concept. Then it says, did I set the file up? Do I have a first proof or something to share? And then when is it done? By dividing those up, it kind of helps your project as opposed to am I done with it or not. So do those small steps. You may find like they'll move along a little bit farther. The other thing is if you're working for yourself, when you send proofs and work with other people, I'm real bad. I'm so glad Paige Ann's listening to this right now because she has been keeping on track. But I'm bad about punting it. Oh, I've got that done. I've got it sent to somebody, so I'm waiting to them to respond. Well, if you send a proof to somebody, say, oh, here's your proof. It's like, I got the proof. I'm all excited. But put in there, said, oh, I'll look forward to your response. I need, can you talk to me by Friday? Because you'll wait on stuff. The printer has not delivered. So whenever you do something, add an extra line in there. It's the action phrase. Oh, I'm delivering this. When should I see something? Instead of just waiting, have a deadline that they tell you, oh, we'll have you a proof on Monday or we'll deliver it on this day. The same thing with clients. Add those lines so that you take the responsibility off you and you basically you've already got an agreement. Oh, I moved the project to you. And that includes clients. I moved it to you. I say, oh, I'm glad you love it. Fantastic. I'm going to get it back to you. Great. You think Wednesdays, it gives you a couple of days. Yeah, by Wednesday, save that email because you are the hero. You're the one's got to fix all the problems. You got to make up all the time and stuff. So if you're working in-house, make sure that you cover yourself. So think about when you say, don't just say, oh, here's your proof. Say, oh, here's your proof when we'll have it. So that may help your projects move along. So traffic. All right, and folks, we've got about 5 more minutes. We're doing great on time. Officially, folks, we end up at 2:00, but I'm not gonna hit the go button until everybody has a question to ask or whatever y'all need to do. Okay, so the one here y'all can see it says discuss the importance of having a range of styles and looks as a graphic designer, showing a range in your portfolio. Okay. It says anonymous. I bet it's a teacher.
Can you repeat the question one more time so I can
It
make
says,
sure I'm understanding?
can you discuss the importance of having a range of styles and looks as a graphic designer, showing a range in your portfolio? The importance of having a range in your portfolio.
Well, like right now, I have to tell you that I do like to see people's passion projects, because I do believe that like in nowadays you have to have a corporate look. I think that's a staple, because if nothing else, a lot of times you might not be able at the very beginning of your career. Some of you might come into industries where you have to have a corporate look, even if that's not going to be your overall style. So I do believe it's very important to make sure that like in your portfolio, there's at least that look. I do believe that there needs to be an instance where you can flex, like those are your passion projects, but they have to make sure they make sense. Like, let's just say if you have a knack for illustration, and I tell them all the time, unless you're in an industry unless you're in a place where you can find illustration jobs, I would always kind of like, even if that is your strong suit, I would take your illustrative piece and put it into context of what can be used in a graphic design setting, like turn it into a poster with typography, turn it into, turn it into a brochure, or, some sort of show it in an application somewhere. Don't just like, if you're not going for an illustrator job, don't just have a ton of pieces just that are illustration by themselves. Yes, and then I do think that it's possible it's good to show, like if you're really fantastic with color, as well as, to me, like right now, and this is hot, you guys, having some sort of sense of like digital, being able to scan digital platforms, like being able to, like, literally right now, that is so hot. You cannot find people who are really fantastic with doing digital ads, social media scanning, they having and understanding that platform right now. So, even down to like, web pages, if you don't take anything from that, learning how to scan those particular platforms, because it's an industry pain point. Right now, you just cannot find these type of designers because they're snatched up so quick. I would make sure that I'm solving a graphic problem for a pain point within the industry. So yes, like within those ranges, I do believe that it's important.
Paige and Jessica, I know we're running out of time and rushing y'all. Do y'all have anything else you would like to add to that?
I agree. Just, don't worry about the number of concepts. Show us how you can use and the different places and the different platforms is so important.
And then I would just say making sure that you're only using, like we'd mentioned earlier before, just like your absolute best pieces. Don't fill it. It's important to have a range of styles, but we definitely do need to see how it's going to be able to be used today. And then you can take the skill set that you do have and then turn it into something that will be beneficial.
Folks, I wish we had more time. This went quicker, and I hate that I ate it up with my talking. I've got a couple of housekeeping trips. First of all, while I know they can't hear you, a round of applause to our panel. Thank y'all so very, very much. And this stuff will come in. To all the students and instructors from the morning sessions, I've already got the email. I will send it to the instructors, but the stacks, the PDFs from the morning presentations, I will send to all the instructors. Also, all 3 of these sessions have been recorded. They are through our Zoom with Jeff Harrison. Asked, we may be able to make them available. I have to double check that on those, but they have been recorded. So if you think you can use these for your benefit, we would like to make those available to you. Again, right now, this is all free, so I'm not selling anything. But a thank you to all our panelists, our students. Hopefully we all gained something. Thank you personally from something that I've always enjoyed. I feel like it's been meaningful. So hopefully we're starting something new and we'll all be back in person one day. If you have questions, instructors and students, I've been mailing out stuff for the last couple of weeks. If there's something specific you have, you'll just send it to me. It's going to come to me personally, but I'll share it with the board. And we'd also like suggestions and thoughts for the future. We've got this set up this year, so maybe we'll do it again next year. Thank you, everybody. So to our students, I cannot tell you how just excited I am to see what you're doing. If the board allow me to speak, we thoroughly are glad to host this for you. Thank you for letting us be a part of what you do. And it's great when we see you as professionals and we experience and get to share in the light that y'all do. So thank you, everybody, so much. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to check the Q&A in the chat on the side. It's just a few minutes open. I'm going to leave this open in about 4 or 5 minutes here to about 5 after, then I'll shut it down. Panelists, you can stay or go. But if anybody has any questions, if you will let me know, instructors, please just send me a personal email or text or message or whatever, just your overall thoughts. I don't need a whole paper, but if it was worth the time and effort, and any suggestions if we do it again, we'd appreciate that. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to jump off.
Thank you,
Have the rest
Jessica.
of your day.
Thank you. Cece, as always, from way back, I'm sorry, from last year, from back on if we're the Markham Building or downtown going up to the Great Southern Club or whoever and everywhere, you've always been there. And I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. It's like, oh, and remember, I bumped into your father one time at an event and he said, yes. And I cannot remember if it was at a high school or on the community college campus, but he was retired. We talked about this a while back, but I bumped into your father and he just, he is a proud dad. So I thought good deal. So
Yeah,
it's been a years ago.
But anytime, Jeff, I think that your just tenacity on and just helping this industry and helping our students all this time has been inspiring too. So always my pleasure. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Paige Ann, you have been just the best driving force. You've let me kick it to the curb 2 or 3 times, and you would send me a message that says, have I talked to so-and-so? And you knew the answer was probably not.
No.
And you would sit there and I get a message, but I just talked to so-and-so and could not have done it. And it's wonderful. Thank you for letting me sit there and stand in your shadow and follow. You've made it so easy.
Stop. Not Jeff Harrison. I'm looking at your name, Jeff Jones.
I know it's see how
I'm sorry. Jeff Harrison is famous,
stuff.
you guys. He's fantastic. But Jeff Jones has had this idea for the full year. I came into the role as VP of Education this year with COVID. Did not know what I was going to do. And this guy's had a vision and he is going to be your next VP next year. I'm hoping.
Education.
VP of Education next year. So he is going to
I'm still here. So
do an amazing thing. This is my last year on the board for a little bit, and then I'll be back in a couple of years. But I'm super excited.
Can we say why? That you have something going on right now besides you?
Yes, I'm expecting a sweet little baby boy. October
First child.
So I am taking some time for that. But thank you guys so much, and I absolutely love the phase of college and then getting into the world. So if any of you ever need any help, you can look me up on LinkedIn, Paige Ann Fletcher, and I will be glad to help you. I'll be glad to look at your resumes, answer questions. It may take me a little bit to get the resume back to you. It's a creative process, but I'm glad to assist however needed. And I know our whole board is very thankful to you guys. So, and I'm really excited that Ole Miss has been on this call and that we were kind of able to get all across the state. So
it was
that's fantastic.
It was truly smaller. We normally have all the schools.
Yeah.
We did reach out and we have something to build on. So I was really excited. So one or none. By the way, folks, since we're recording this, I've been active in these other events years and years and years. I changed jobs last year. So I'm working for myself, no longer in the classroom. I am thankful for the board because I had resources that change and I came to them. I didn't dump it on their lap, but I said, hey, I was doing this before. Would y'all like to help do this? And it was actually a lot of work. So I am so thankful. And it's really a great group and we look forward to doing more in the future. So with that in mind, I'm going to sit there and quit the meeting in a moment. We've got a lot of thank yous on the side for those 18 people counting us that are still here. Again, if you want to reach out and send us a message, we'd love to say hey and do what we can. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cece.